Okay, good evening, everyone. I think we're ready to go. Welcome to the May 6th, 2021 special city council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, Councilwoman Hamilton will be serving as our temporary chair. Yeah, well, she could do that too. Our temporary clerk this evening. Just to make things easier, I will just call the roll.
I can do it,
You
Mr.
can
Chairman.
do it? Councilwoman
Absolutely.
Hamilton, please do.
Yes. Councilman Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
thank you. Councilwoman Hosky,
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, First District, present.
Councilwoman Johnston,
Councilwoman Johnston, Third District, present.
Councilman Collin is not present tonight. Councilman Galignano,
Councilwoman Mr. Galignano, Fourth District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, Fifth District, present. Councilman Massaro,
Councilman Peter Massaro, Sixth District, present.
Councilwoman McGee,
Councilwoman McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Finelli,
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Bruno,
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Cohen,
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
Chairman Quagliani.
Council at Large Ron Quagliani, present.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Would you mind reading the call of the special meeting into the record?
That I don't have, Mr.
I
Chairman.
can do that then. I can
Thank
do
you.
Sure. In accordance with Rule 11 of the rules governing the actions of the City Council, Chairman Quagliani has called a special meeting of the West Haven City Council to be held at 6 p.m. on Thursday, May the 6th, 2021 via electronic means in accordance with Standing Rule number 30. The purpose of this special meeting is as follows: deliberations and actions on Mayor Nancy R. Rossi's recommended budget for fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022, and to set the mill rate thereon, including the appropriations and laying of taxes for the City of West Haven Fire Department, Allentown. Next order of business on the agenda are deliberations. Does anybody have any motions to bring forward? Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a moment of point of privilege, I just want to thank everybody here on the call tonight and those listening in for their kindness and understanding this week. I do appreciate it very much. Going forward, the first motion I'm going to make is on behalf of Councilwoman O'Connor, who I believe will second it, so because she's having a little trouble. So I'm just going to read this. There's a motion on page 38, Personnel Department, budget line 111-000-10-51000, regular wages. The motion is that we would like to make the HR generalist, which is currently proposed for October 1st start for full-time to part-time. So we would adjust the budget to $30,000, at which point the adjusted total for that personnel department would be $267,837. That is the motion. Shaking your head, yes. And so thank you, sir.
Councilman Cohen's brought forward the motion that he read into the record. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Council first. Mayor Rossi?
Just to make everyone aware, that's a mandated position by MARB. They will be acting on our budget next week. They will be looking at any of the changes from the mayor's recommended, which by the way, they approved yesterday. We're very pleased with it, and the contingency plan. And they moved it forward to the full MARB meeting. So I'm asking everybody not to vote for this because we're in a good place this time. I'm not saying there won't be any complaints when we have the full MARB together, but where they have mandated it, and there was a reason that I changed it and they agreed with me till October the 1st start date instead of July the 1st. And that's only because we will be hiring a new personnel director. I'm going to try to have that personnel director in prior to July the 1st. And at that point, I would come back to the council, if that looks like it's going to happen, to get additional funding transferred into the line item. But to change a position that they have pushed for the last year and a half, and I put it into the budget, and they did go along with the 9 months, they will never go along with the half a year. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. Councilwoman Hosky.
So I guess I'm just wondering what Councilwoman O'Connor's rationale is in making this motion. Did you speak to somebody, or how did you come up with that motion? Like, what's the rationale?
My rationale was that there is going to be some flux in that department, and I think we need to figure out what kind of people, what combination of people you're going to need to make that department work after the person retires. So I thought having someone part-time at first would make sense till we figure out what's actually needed there.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Do I still have the floor, Chairman Quagliani? I don't want to. Okay. I just personally, Councilwoman O'Connor, I'm just kind of surprised that of the motion, because the the mayor had laid out her plan to backfill the position and then stated to then hire the HR generalist. And the MARB has talked about it over and over again. I guess when we're saying that we would need to determine what needs to happen in that department, it's already been determined. Deficiencies have been more than I mean, the deficiency on top of the deficiencies of what's going on in that department is well documented, and I'm just surprised. So I am unfortunately not going to be able to support this. I don't agree. That's all I have, Chairman.
Any other discussion for the first time? Okay, Councilman Cohen.
Yeah, I understand the comments that were made both by the mayor and by both Councilwoman O'Connor and Councilwoman Hosky. Understood that MARB, it's one of those conditional things from MARB, but I did not see, I personally, again, I'm not making the motion here, I did not personally see that we're not taking away the position, that we're making it a part-time position, with the understanding that to see how things go, but more or less, but MARB basically required the position. They did not stipulate full-time, at least to my knowledge. I don't know that for a fact, but everything that I've seen or heard, and I could be wrong, but that is the rationale at least my rationale, why I support Councilwoman O'Connor's motion, which I made, I guess. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Mayor Ross.
It was stipulated full-time. They do not want somebody part-time. They're looking for a full-time position. As I said, it was all I could do to get it delayed, only because if we had a personnel director that was staying, I wouldn't have asked for it to be delayed, but I did so that we didn't have, the two new people together. And I wanted the personnel director in first so he or she could discuss and get the generalist. So it was in the study that they did and that the HR consulting group did. And it's been always discussed. It has never been discussed as a part-time position there. So I just want to make clear for the rest of the council people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My only discussion is I did read that HR study that the MARB commissioned, and we do have some systematic changes that we need to make. And I believe that department does require a full-time position in order to do that. I think as we go forward, in order to continue our road to recovery, we need to put systems in place that are going to continue on for the city. And I think this is one of them, HR. So I would be opposed to that motion. Is there any other discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of changing the HR generalist to as articulated by Councilman Cohen, please raise your hand. All in favor? There's no one in favor. Are there anybody opposed? Are there any abstentions? Councilman Cohen abstains. Motion fails. Are there any other motions to be brought forward this evening? Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going to page 34, the mayor's office, budget number 11050010, 5100, regular wages. We want to just reduce that budget by $4,740, bringing the new total to $235,480. Here's our rationale. And again, this is not at all specific to individuals. The individuals in the mayor's office do a spectacular job. They're top-notch professionals, absolutely. But when we being in our caucus, Councilwoman O'Connor and I basically looked at the 10.3% increase for both the executive secretary and the administrative secretary. And perhaps there's good reason for it, and perhaps there's been a job description change or what have you, what it might be. We just really felt, given that everybody else was between 1% and 3%, thereabouts, that we're basically I'm making a motion to adjust that to a 3%. So to a 3% increase versus the 10.3% increase, just trying to add some level of consistency. So that's my motion to basically reduce the regular wages from $220 to $235,480. And then the individual increases on the chart would be $1185 each, thus the reduction of $4740. Thank you.
Is there a second? Councilwoman O'Connor, is there any discussion? Councilwoman Hosky?
So I guess I'm just once again questioning the consistency of everything. We talk about right-sizing people and paying people what they're supposed to get. I had a study done by CCM, I might be getting the acronym wrong, which shows that Corp Counsel, the mayor's office, and quite a few other positions were drastically underpaid with municipalities of our size. And having to say, well, this isn't about it being the mayor's office kind of leads you to think that, well, if you have to say that, it leads you to be a little bit uncomfortable that it is about being the mayor's office. And if we're if we're about being consistent, why aren't we doing the same thing in the police department and cutting the salaries of the people who are getting more than the 1%? So if you're going to be consistent and that be your argument, then you need to do a full examination of the budget book and do that to every single person who got more than a 1%. Fair is fair. Now, I don't agree with it at all. I don't believe the police department, their people should get cut. I don't believe corp counsel should get cut. But if for consistency's sake, and that's your argument, then let's be consistent and do it across the board. So because of that, and because the argument is inconsistent to me, and I believe that we need to finally start right-sizing people and paying people accurately, I'm against the motion.
Any other council members for the first time? Councilman Massaro.
I know I was gone for a while, but I was pretty much brought up to date on what we did. My question to you, Barry, is are we going to nitpick this budget all night? Because if we are on wages and stuff, we already went through all this. And if you're just going to keep on nitpicking the wages and everything, like I agree what Bridget said, then everybody's got to be. And we should have went through everybody's raise and everybody's salary and make it all consistent. Like she said, everybody the same. If you want to cut people's salaries down, I just don't believe in nitpicking certain departments. We're going to do the whole city, or we're just not going to touch it at all. It's one way or the other, and I can't see doing that.
Any other council members for the first time? Any other discussion on the motion, Councilman Cohen?
Yes, I was talking about the individuals, not the mayor's office. And what we see here is a 10.3% increase. So we're not decreasing anyone's current budget or anyone's current salary. So the rationale that I was basically speaking about was, for the most part in this budget, most people in our city of West Haven is getting between a 1 and 3% increase, with a couple of rare exceptions, which were explained because of grade changes in the police department, if I recall. So this is not about the mayor's office, or for that matter, and I specifically said the individuals, because I think they're both very good and qualified individuals. I'm talking about the consistency within the city of West Haven. There are many studies done. There are many studies done, not just by the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, but from other outside organizations. And yes, I will be the first to say that there are many individuals in many different positions that are underpaid, but at the same time, I'm not nitpicking and I'm not lowering anyone's current salary. I'm basically giving them, or I'm suggesting, a 3% to basically be equitable, or in many cases above equitable versus other people in City Hall. So again, it's one of these things where I agree we should have to give them an increase. And I'm suggesting that, yes, we do give them an increase. I'm simply suggesting that the increase not be 10.3%. In good conscience, we are here as a council. People are watching us, and we're basically giving two people a 10.3% increase. That's over $4,000 a year. And I'm not saying they're not worth it, but I'm also saying that we should also be very conscious about, doing what we have. And again, it's comparing it within our own area. And the police were a different situation in terms of what we were. I asked the question in terms of being adjusted for the grade, for the level, if you will. So again, this is not about individuals. This is not about an office. Of looking at two salary lines that were what I believe and what we believe to be a little out of whack. And that is why it was done. And I still say getting, compared to everybody else, an $1,185 increase a year is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And so, no, I'm not nitpicking, but when I do see something like this, maybe the Democrat caucus talked about this in a different manner, and that's your prerogative, but we also talked about it, and we took a look at the budgets within here. So we can throw studies back and forth all day long coming from outside sources. And I can, but we're not here for that. We're here to do what's in our conscience. And any other type of motivations, it was not motivated by any individuals, any office. It was done looking at the budgets and looking at the numbers closely. At the end of the day, 10.3% for any position currently at City Hall right now is not, in my eyes, appropriate. But we do feel that they are definitely above average at 3% when you compare with other people at City Hall for positions. So that's the rationale with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Councilwoman Finelli.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to point out, I know we're reiterating the 10.3%, but this is a $39,000 salary. So it's not 10% on an $80,000 salary. And now, with all due respect, Councilman Cohen, last week you wanted to give the registrar's office a $2 an hour raise, which a year would come out to a $1,976 raise. But these full-time employees, you only want to give them an $1,185 raise, which is lower than what you were willing to give to the people in the registrar's office. So, I have to agree. I don't think, even though, yes, that 10.3, when you say it as a 10.3, increase, it seems a lot larger than the other increases. But when you're looking at what the salary is to begin with, it's a very small number. And especially in comparison to other raises that you were, wanting to give in other departments. So I have to say that I agree with Councilwoman Hosky and Councilman Mazzaro that I think the way it is with the 10.3% raise is fair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Is there any other discussion for the first time? Listen, I would like to just comment if I can. So for me, it's about equity. So I know that there's been an effort in this budget to bring people up to an equitable level, consistent upon their job duties, comparative to where the union positions would be. I think that's what was done in the police department, which I'm all in favor for. Those individuals had a very, very low wage for the amount of work that they did. So yes, they did change to a different classification within the union, which allowed them to get a bigger bump than most. If you take a look at the mayor's office, executive and administrative secretaries, and you look at their job descriptions and you place them into a classification, the union classification, those are right about where those salaries would be. There's with a step or two, because some of them, if not both of them, have been there for excess of 3 years. So I'm comfortable with right sizing those jobs. They've and we have to understand that the amount of bodies in the mayor's office was reduced from past administrations. So in FY13, the total wages in the mayor's office was $284,000. In FY22, the recommended wages in the mayor's office is $240,000, $44,000 less than FY13. So I think it's about equity and right sizing and paying individuals an appropriate wage for the duties that they have. So I'm comfortable with that item, and I'm not in support of the motion. Is there any other discussion? Councilman Bruno?
Mr. Chairman, can I call for a roll call vote, please?
Alpha Romeo, Alpha November, Sierra Kilo, Sierra 14, Roy, Thomas Valley, Sierra 3.
Councilman Bruno's called for a roll call vote, which stops discussion. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Hamilton, would you please conduct the roll call vote?
Absolutely. Councilman Donovan,
No.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
No.
Councilwoman Hosky,
No.
Councilwoman Johnston,
No.
Councilman Galagano,
No.
Councilman Massaro,
No.
Councilwoman McGee,
No.
Councilwoman Finelli,
No.
Councilman Bruno,
No.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
I would be a no. Councilman, Chairman Quagliani,
No.
one yes. Councilman.
One yes, 11 nay, motion fails. Are there any other motions that anyone would like to bring forward this evening? I do have one motion that I would like to bring forward this evening. I'd like to create a new account in the city council office, account 11000010. Again, new account for a Safer City initiative for $15,000. I guess before I explain that, I need a second. Second by Councilman Bruno, Councilwoman Johnston. Discussion. So the discussion is for quite some time, years. We've been trying to get a sustainable program where we create an initiative that allows the city, in collaboration with property owners, non-owner occupied property owners, to be able to ensure that their housing stock is up to housing code, that is safe for their tenants. So this would involve a notification and a license where they would have to put their contact information or the manager's contact information for 24/65, and to make sure through inspection that our housing stock is safe for the individuals that rent it. We did a pilot on this years ago, and it was successful, except it was like so many other things that we tried to do. We just added these duties onto existing individuals and existing departments, so it really wasn't sustainable. So I'd like to actually put some seed money in place to be able to begin this initiative, likely to examine our housing code, our existing housing code, and to create an ordinance to enable this type of program to take effect. Again, it's about making sure that we don't have unlawful dwellings. It's making sure that we make sure that we have fire safety code, we have housing code up to date, and to make sure that all of our residents are safe where they live. I think we owe that to them, and I think this program would enable that to happen. So those are my thoughts on it. Is there any other discussion? Mayor Rossi?
Yes, and I have talked to the chairman and some of the council members about this, and we're going to do our best to work together and try to, move something like this forward. I too, when I was on the council, wanted to do something similar to this, and unfortunately, we never had the funding or the money. But meanwhile, people are living in unsafe places that are not inspected. There's extra rooms and things put on that no one knows. So if there's a fire, the plans may be different than they should be. So there's all kinds of, could be all kinds of problems for people. That being said, I just wanted to know, I know where the 15,000 is coming from, a new account, but going to a new account, but where is it coming from?
The 15,000 is the money that we had with the changes that we made over the deliberations. It's not new money.
Okay, only because, the only reason I asked that is because Frank could not be here tonight because he had a family obligation. So I just wanted to make sure, because this is it. So I didn't want the mill rate even to get bumped a little bit. So that's my reason for my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, can I ask Councilwoman Hamilton for a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Councilman Donovan,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hosky,
Definitely.
Councilwoman Johnston,
Yes.
Councilman Galignano,
Yes.
Councilman Massaro,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGee,
Yes.
Councilwoman Finelli,
Yes.
Councilman Bruno,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
and I would be a yes for the record. Chairman Quagliani,
Yes. 12 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Thank you. Are there any other motions for this to bring forward? Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are all overtime. We adjusted from the last meeting and slimmed them down. So on page 48, Planning and Development, 11900 51500 overtime, currently at 2500, and we're asking it to decrease to 1700, which was the current level reported to us. The next one is also overtime as part of this motion. It is building maintenance, on page 82, I'm sorry, 14606 51500 overtime, 5500. I'm proposing to decrease to 5,000. That one we had discussed being impacted by COVID. And finally, excuse me, page 96, Health Department, 14704 010, 51500 overtime, 10,000, decreasing it to 5,000. That is a total decrease in overtime in total of those three lines of 10, 510. I'm sorry, can't do it. 10, 11,800, 11,700. I'm sorry. No, 11, Jesus. Sorry, guys. And 11,700 in total. Sorry about that.
Is there a second to Councilman Cohen's motion? Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Hamilton.
Councilman Cohen, I'm just wondering, so, and where would this savings go?
This would go right into the this to just come right off. Just come right off in terms of any type of savings. It can go right into the rainy day, go right into the general fund.
And if these departments needed it, especially like the health department, it's kind of, we've been needing a lot of their services. What would happen?
Well, I'm open to a motion if someone wants to put it in contingency, but if someone wants to make an amendment motion to put it in contingency, that's fine. But to be honest with you, these are just such slight decreases in terms of the health department, as the reasoning basically being is they wanted 10,000, and as I recall, the reasoning basically being because they wanted to do a number of clinics, or that was what they would like to do on some of the flu shots and stuff, and there probably won't be as much of a need as there is now, because it is much more readily available, the flu shots, excuse me, the COVID shots, excuse me, the boosters and so forth. As you basically read in the papers today, there's basically a backlog of shots. So the $5,000 in the scheme of their entire budget is very, very little, and there are some items that can be moved around. It is a modest decrease in terms of their overall budget, and in terms of, as you can see, planning and development, even a smaller decrease of only $800 is the difference of what they asked for. And in terms of the building maintenance was 5,000, but it was only a 5,000 decrease in the scheme of their whole budget, because a lot of that was a good portion that was COVID impacted. So again, looking at the total overtime for the entire city, it's a modest, it's a right size decrease. It's a right size decrease. It was well thought. But again, always happy always happy for amendments. Thank you.
I have no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other discussion? Councilman Massaro.
In all due respect, I don't see what $11,700 is going to do. And secondly, if you're going to put it in a fund and if they run over, you're going to have to transfer it later on, and we got to keep going back and forth, back and forth. I just don't see the sense of it. I really don't. For $11,700, to me, it's a waste of accounting.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Councilwoman Finelli.
Thank you, Chairman. I say I agree with Councilman Mazzaro. It seems like we're kind of inflating the contingency fund or the general fund if we know there's a good chance we're going to have to put it back. And I'm just wondering how these specific departments were chosen, because even looking at building maintenance, I know this year they used 44,000, but like City Hall was closed most of the year. And with City Hall reopening, and I would, think within the upcoming year, it's going to be open to the public. And I mean, the cleanliness of the building, that's all still going to be important, especially now we're going to have more people in and out of there. So I don't really think it's a great idea to lower that amount. Now, am I misinterpreting something, Mr. Cohen?
Yes, I appreciate what you're saying.
Councilman, I'll give you an opportunity to respond. Councilwoman Finelli, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I was just wondering about that, and also why these particular, departments. Is there any data or anything that you've found that kind of points to these, particular departments needing a decrease in overtime?
Councilman Galagano, I think you're unmuted. Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. I think let me go around to everybody for the first time, and then you could rebut there, Councilman Cohen, afterwards. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, if we leave it as such and we reject this motion, if they don't use the money, that goes back into the general fund anyways. Am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Yes, you're
Thank you.
correct. Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Is there any other discussion first time around? My discussion is I agree with you, Councilman Donovan. And if we're all doing our jobs, we're reviewing the budget every month. The MARB is reviewing the budget every month. The mayor and the finance directors are reviewing the budget every month. If they don't need it, they don't use it. And then it falls to the bottom line and into the rainy day fund. But I just, if, again, and I appreciate the motion, Councilman Cohen, if we're going to move the needle, we're going to be we have to talk in the hundreds of thousands. We could, it's very hard to move the needle like this. I understand where you're going as far as trying to identify the amount of overtime that they're forecasted to use this year and keeping it flat going forward. But again, I'm pretty comfortable that with all the eyes on the budget, that if they don't, we're going to track it to make sure that that it's used appropriately. So that's my position. Is there any other discussion? Okay, Councilman Cohen.
Yes, I just want to, first of all, it is about fiscal responsibility, number one. Number two, everything helps. Number three, by Frank's own words that during our deliberations is last budget, we took 20%, I believe, of a number of overtime budget lines and put in contingency. They only came back for it anyway. So they do spend their budgets. It's extremely rare that whatever you give someone for overtime, it's very rare that they don't use the overtime because they consider it part of their budget. So, it's not as monitored or tracked as much as we really want it to be. It's almost like it's owned by them. So if they really do need the overtime, they're going to basically think twice. They're going to at least have to justify it, because once you put it in that budget line, it's there, And in terms of Councilwoman Finelli, the numbers that I got, just so you know, on the overtime for planning and development, we went through the exercise a week ago at the last meeting where we basically extrapolated what did they spend year to date and Frank extrapolated to year end what they paid in overtime. What their overtime overage was. And so the numbers that I gave for planning and development of 1,700 was in line with what he had given at the last meeting. It wasn't less, it was actually, he gave 16 and change, if I recall, don't quote me on that, but it's exactly what he gave. So I'm basically keeping the overtime, the additional overtime at what was actually spent. In terms of the building maintenance wasn't 44,000. They actually spent, the number that we were given at the last meeting for building maintenance was 66,794. And then we had the discussion that there was a good portion of that was COVID related in that line. So that's why we brought it down to 50, because to your point, they were budgeted 44, and yes, they do need more. And so 50 would be a more responsible figure. Again, that's what we gathered. In terms of the health department, I basically stand by what I said based on the changing landscape of healthcare. This was a new line for the health department. They didn't have any overtime from the year prior. I think it was like 1,400. It was I have to look at it. A very low number that was ridiculously low for overtime from the year prior. So obviously, we all agree that they need a substantial hike in overtime. The $5,000 is substantially higher than what they got. So, yes, we do need to move the needle. We also have to be fiscally responsible. We also have to make sure that, yes, it is important to scrutinize this, because quite honestly, things were not monitored as well in this past year, because all that money that we said last year at this time that they really have to come back to us, well, guess what? They were able to use it anyway. And again, I do respect everyone's votes here. And I hope that you respect at least my motions. And so that's really the rationale. I mean, we all come from different directions on this and so forth. And also, while I'm speaking and have the floor, on the last thing that was said, and I'm going to be out of order here, but the last thing that was said about the other department that went from 27 to 25, and I wanted 27 back, I was trying to regain what they lost. Not that we're going to pay them more, because they basically gain back what they lost. We're all here basically talking about rationales when it's convenient to you regarding, well, we looked at the union contract and what they basically have for certain areas, for certain wages. And, it depends upon the budget, what $25 an hour is of work or $50 an hour of work. I'm really wondering where the consistency is. So with respect, what I'm trying to do is add some thought and consistency to what is a realistic overtime. And at the end of the day, 11,700, you know what? 11,700 is somewhere perhaps that, if we do need it, we have it. And guess what? You can get it, but it's not going to be so readily available in contingency of like, oh, it's mine. We have to really, to use the mayor's good words, and I agree with her, to really make this, it's a fiscally responsible, frugal budget. So when I see things that I think that just have to be, delayed from a full-time to a part-time position, but in this case, overtime that really has to be just tweaked, it isn't a waste of time, with all due respect. And I'm sorry if some of the council people here are a little impatient of that. I respect you, and I would ask the same respect back.
Councilman Cohen, I'm not aware of anyone saying that this was a waste of time. Listen, I personally appreciate your motions. Anybody could bring a motion. Not everybody has to agree with it. So I don't misinterpret disagreement with lack of patience or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, this is our role here. You could bring up motions. Anybody can bring up motions, but we don't agree. We all
Absolutely.
we all have differences of opinion. So
right, absolutely. Listen to the tape. Thank you.
Councilwoman Johnston.
I would just like to echo some of what's been said. I think that most council people here are open to hearing ideas and from everyone, listening is respecting. Disagreeing can also be respecting. I think that this budget is fiscally responsible. It was approved by the MARB. I think that, I personally don't feel qualified to make judgments about the health department and what they might need. I just don't think I don't think that's sound to just say, well, based on a surplus of vaccines, who could have predicted this would happen? prior to COVID. So I don't feel qualified in making those kinds of judgments, but I don't think that makes us unwilling to listen or respect a difference of opinion. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion, Councilwoman McGee?
Can we get a roll call vote?
Second.
We can. Councilwoman Hamilton?
Councilman Donovan,
Can I just get what the motion is? So I know what I'm voting on, please.
Councilman Cohen, would you like to repeat your motion?
You're gonna what?
You're muted.
I'm making a motion that the following three budget lines be adjusted. Page 48, Planning and Zoning, 119-00010-510000, overtime from 2,500 to 1,700. On page 82, Building Maintenance, 1460607551500, overtime from 5,500, decreased to 50,000. And finally, on page 96, the Health Department, which the year prior was only budgeted $1,600. This year, they're budgeting $10,000 and to decrease it to $5,000. Still a very substantial increase in overtime for that department.
Thank you. No.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hosky.
Nope.
Councilwoman Johnston,
No.
Councilman Galignano.
No.
For the record, I am a no. Councilman Massaro,
No.
Councilwoman McGee,
No.
Councilwoman Finelli,
No.
Councilman Bruno,
No.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Chairman Quagliani,
No.
2 yeas.
2 yeas, 10 nays, motion fails. Anything else to bring forward this evening? Councilman Cohen?
This is my last motion for the evening. Everyone can smile. Okay. I love you all. Page 51, controllers, administrative clerk, floater. This is a position, I did listen in very carefully to pretty much all the MARB meetings. And during the MARB meetings, Frank, who did a spectacular job representing the city of West Haven throughout these MARB meetings, he was actually saying at the time, and again, I know what he said different in the council, but I'm going back to what he said at the MARB meetings, that he said that the floater would be used about 50% of the time for his area. Okay, that's what he said. And then I know the percentages changed during our meetings, but with that, Councilwoman O'Connor and myself talked and said, the floater that could, as Frank explained, it could be, working in any of the departments. I mean, any other department, which is fine. We just really felt, what, let's just, Frank definitely needs the support for how he described it in the financial area. Absolutely, no doubt about it. So what we're basically doing is we're saying, what, if it is simply something that he needs and he's going to take 50% of that time for that person, then what, let's make it part-time. Let's not spend the benefits. Let's see if it grows into a full-time job, a full-time position, the following year. But for this year, given what he says that he needs, a part-time, half-time, 50%, we're saying that we're asking for the regular wages that are currently in that department of $618,084. If we make that a floater position, that comes out to 24/7, and we're decreasing the budget by $22,948. So the new regular wages go from $618,084 to $593,384. That's my motion to decrease, and I have to do the math.
Just a point of clarification, I may have missed it, Councilman Cohen. Is this,
Yeah.
does this go from full-time to part-time?
Yes, it does. I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. Yes, it's a part-time position, yes. So we're basically, if you basically take the 19 hours times, I'm sorry, but yeah, the 19 hours times the 25, it comes out to 24/7 for the part-time position for 19 hours versus the full-time position, but the full, which was at 47,684. I'm sorry, 648, excuse me. And so, you know, but more importantly, you know, it gives Frank what he needs, what he says he needs to support his financial area. And that was the reason for the position, you know, and I absolutely agree with him. I just don't believe that, you know, that at this time that we need to make it a full-time position. That's all.
I believe I neglected to get a second. Is there a second? Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Hosky.
So I just have a couple of statements. I just think that I spoke to Frank in great length. I don't know if Councilman Cohen or Councilman O'Connor had a meeting with him, but if they did, and hopefully they did prior to wanting to cut his position, I spoke to him in great length and he said it was an 80-20. I followed up with him and he said it's an 80-20. He expects to be able to have the person assist in other departments 20% of the time, but that this position, again, I don't know if Councilman Cohen and O'Connor realized that this position was a recommendation from the auditor. The auditor who audits our books recommended it and identified weaknesses in that department in accounts payable, that they have piles and piles of work, purchasing department, the bid documents, the state grant documentation, all kinds of stuff. And then when needed, I don't know if we recall from our council meetings that the tax office, the building department, the health department, the clerk's office, all asked for admins this year, all stated that they need additional support. So I honestly, I mean, we're throwing around a lot of accusations. I mean, I'm quite alarmed at the accusations that were brought forth in the last motion where we were saying department heads are allowing wrongdoing in their department and thus letting, you know, this free fall in overtime. Well, if we don't allow Frank this full-time position, we are going to be increasing his department's overtime. He said it to me several times. So we have this accusation that's, if we review the tape, we'll see was made that, you know, the overtime is there, so they just spend it. Well, now we're actually going to be helping them spend it. So unless somebody can tell me that they spoke to Frank in the last 24 hours and he said this position is no longer needed, because I need some data. We're saying this on our opinion when it's actually the should be the opinion of the person we're speaking to. So that's what I got, that what that person is doing. I don't know if anyone else spoke to Frank or looked at the audit that said that we should have this done.
Any Councilman Massaro?
Looking at that budget for the controller's office, there's two positions eliminated, which equals 151,297. We're going to put somebody in there for only 47,646 to help Frank out 80% and 20% to other districts. I think that's a win. We're saving $151,297 of two positions being gone, and you're putting somebody in for $47,000. I think that's a win position, as far as I'm concerned. That's all I got to say.
Good, Councilman Massaro. Is there any other discussion for the first time? Any discussion? Any more discussion at all? Councilman Cohen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, in terms of wrong, I never said the word wrongdoing. Accusations is basically, but it's just a basic statement of that we looked at what we did last year. We took 20% of the overtime aside in contingency. It was used, okay? In terms of using the word wrongdoing, I'm not saying it's wrongdoing. They just have to come back, but they basically were able to do it. My point is very simple. In terms of, you know, what Councilman Massaro said, well, one of those positions was transferred over to another department, so it wasn't a savings. It was just basically based on a restructuring. But for the most part, we've heard Frank say 50% on a couple of times at a MARB meeting. He basically said it a couple of times since then. He said 75, and then he's told Councilwoman Hosky 80%. I am aware of the audit. I am aware of the recommendations for someone to help with that, but to help with that particular function. And so I will take the man at his words. And again, it's not that we don't want the position, it's how we basically view the position at this time. Okay. You know, but again, I would like to hope that you think that it's constructive that these motions are not made just half-shot without study or research. No, they've been made with a lot of thought. They've been done with research. When certain people in the administration return our calls, we have conversations. If they don't, they don't. But that's those are other matters. But we do our due diligence here, and I'm very proud of our motions on both sides of the aisle that have been brought up during these deliberations with respect. I respect a number of things that I voted on and a number of things I didn't vote on, and I'm sure that all of you feel the same way. So yeah, that's basically it. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hamilton, roll call vote, please.
Oh, Councilman Donovan,
No.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hosky,
No.
Councilwoman Johnston,
No.
Councilman Gallagher-Nano,
No.
myself is a no. Councilman Massaro,
No.
Councilwoman McGee,
No.
Councilwoman Finelli,
No.
Councilman Bruno.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
I'm
No.
sorry. Councilman Cohen
Yes.
and Chairman Quagliani.
No.
2 yeses.
Motion fails. Okay. Could move on to action on Mayor Rossi's budget. Action on Mayor Nancy R. Rossi's recommended budget for fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022, and to set the mill rate thereon, including the appropriations and laying of taxes for the city of West Haven Fire Department, Allingtown. I'll read the resolution into the record. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven authorize the amended fiscal 2021-2022 city expenditures and capital non-reoccurring of $165,916,149 plus the $15,000 that we put in this evening, and sets the mill rate at 34 mills. Allingtown Fire Department expenditures of $8,657,821 and sets the mill rate at 11.62 mills. Sewer expenditures of $11,827,836 with sewer use fees of $426 and a car tax of 37 mills. Is there a motion to approve? Motion, Councilwoman
moved.
Hosky, Councilman Massaro, Galignano. Is there a second? Second, Councilman Bruno, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman McGee, Councilman Donovan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please. Yes is in favor of the budget as amended by the council. No is not.
Councilman Donovan,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
No.
Councilwoman Hosky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Johnston,
Yes.
Councilman Galignano.
Yes.
For the record, I am a yes. Councilman Massaro,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGee,
Yes.
Councilwoman Finelli,
Yes.
Councilman Bruno,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
No.
and Chairman Quagliani.
Yes.
2 nays.
10 yeas, 2 nays. Budget passes as amended by the council. Is there anything else before the council this evening? Mayor Rossi.
First, I'd like to thank the city council for all their hard work and diligence through this process. I know you spent a lot of hours away from your family and friends and everything else to take care of this budget, and I do appreciate it, and so do the taxpayers in the city of West Haven. I did have to take a couple of telephone calls during this, and it was with very good news for the city of West Haven that I've been waiting on for the last few days, that we've been trying to go back and forth with language. The House of Representatives has passed the special taxation district for the Havens, 142-20. We're not there yet. We got to go to the Senate, but I wanted to share that. Both State Representative Dorinda Boer had called me, State Representative Charlie Ferraro, and also State Representative Michael DeMassa to let me the good news. I've been in touch with them and working with them the past few days because we had to iron out some language. We had to have some meetings with Secretary McCaw and OPM and all of that, but we got half of it done. So let's say a prayer, goes to the Senate, and we get the same thing, because hopefully now we're on our way. So I wanted to let everybody know some good news for once, instead of always, we don't get such good news. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the delegation for their hard work on this initiative. Having no other business in front of us this evening, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilwoman Massaro, seconded by Councilwoman Hosky. Thank you all very much for your hard work during this process. And I'd also like to publicly thank Councilwoman Hosky, who led up the Finance Committee. Lots of time, lots of effort, lots of work. I appreciate it very much. And again, thanks to everybody. It was quite a ride doing this remotely. But I think we did our due diligence, and I want to thank everybody for their time and their commitment. Have a good evening.